Ryan Serhant is more than just a real estate agent. He's a brand builder at heart.
He built a brand based off people wanting to be like him, which is kind of crazy.
I think the ones that are doing the best are the ones that are being really authentic and just doing their own self.
Authenticity is going to be what makes people a fan.
The more hats you wear in your business, the least efficient you are.
So welcome back to the Clout Podcast, where we help real estate professionals and entrepreneurs build better brands and scale their businesses. Today we are going to kick off a new case study series where we dive into how top performing real estate professionals and entrepreneurs build their brands. And honestly, who better to start with than Ryan Serhant? Are you guys excited?
I agree.
I'm excited.
I'm a big Ryan Serhant fan, so I'm really excited to share some of the things that I've learned from him, from his books, from watching his content online. So I'm really excited.
I didn't know about him until this year when he popped up on my Netflix, and I was like, who is this guy? And then I went into a deep dive. So I'm super excited to learn more about him from y'all, from this podcast series, and more that we have. So Nate, I think you were cooking up something about just a little background because I don't know really that much about him.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Ryan Serhant. He started out as a struggling actor, jumped into real estate with zero experience, and rose to become one of New York's most sought after brokers. But here's the kicker. His success isn't just from selling homes, it's from selling himself as a brand. Between starring on Million Dollar Listing, creating a powerhouse brokerage under his own name, and sharing every behind the scenes moment on YouTube and Instagram, Ryan turned his personal story into a magnet that draws in clients, fans, and opportunities. The takeaway? He didn't really rely on one big break. He consistently produced content, stayed authentic, and showcased both the hustle and the results. If you want to see how personal branding can transform your career, just look at Ryan. He's proof that you can build an empire one piece of content at a time. And I think that really encapsulates exactly who Ryan Serhant is. Although I do know that Logan has quite the fanboy experience with Ryan,
Yeah.
but I totally get it because he is a star, and he really is a hustler that constantly uses all of the new things that technology or platforms have to offer. So what is it like that you actually like about Ryan, Logan?
So I actually started my career in real estate right out of college, and I'd always seek to mentorship and trying to figure out who's doing it right, who's doing it the best. And pretty quickly I came across Ryan Serhant all over the internet, different ways he marketed properties through YouTube, and I just became a fan early on. And this is when he started gaining popularity through Bravo's $1 Million Listing. And so back in 2018, 19, and 20, I spent a lot of time in New York City thinking about maybe moving out there, just kind of really in love with the city and what all New York stands for. And I ran into one of my buddies out there from my hometown, works directly with Ryan Serhant as his creative director. And I was like, okay, I got to meet this guy. And so we set it up. He brought me into the studio where his content creation team was. And I was just blown away. This is at the time we were already kind of picking up business with Clout. So I was kind of doing real estate, kind of doing Clout. And I was like, holy cow, this guy is making all this content, but he has a entire team. He had 5 people, full-time content creators, creative directors, creating all this content. So I was like, wow, this is really what it takes to create a brand like this. So, bring it to modern day. Ryan Serhant is the most followed real estate brand in the entire world. He has the biggest audience, the biggest following, the most engagements, and he's doing these really bizarre marketing tactics for marketing listings and marketing himself. Ultimately, I think that in today's day and age, social networking and putting content out there for yourself and your brand is like the modern day handshake. Back then it was going to social networking events, shaking hands, and I feel shaking hands is like the modern day impressions online. And he just showed a really good inside look at his life and what it's like to sell real estate, what it's like to sell luxury real estate, and one of the nicest places in the world, and definitely in the United States. So I was just always really, really interested in what he did. And, through the journey, I've bought his books, I followed his stuff, paid for some of his courses, and it's just crazy. I mean, he does a lot of branding, coaching, team building, a lot of different things. So he's a really, really exciting dude, and I'm excited to talk more about the things he does that bring him the success he has.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Very cool.
In your like case study about him, Nate, I think that I didn't realize he started as an actor, because me coming in just learning about him recently, I was like, oh my God, he's such a character. That's why I liked him, because he was a character, and he turned himself into a content machine, like you said, Logan. He had like a team of like 5 people there with you like a few years ago. So can you imagine what it is now? And I think he turned himself into that machine. He leveraged all the platforms, now even onto like streaming platforms, things like that. But his life became part of his marketing strategy. And I think that's what we've been talking to a lot of people about, making his brand relatable, aspirational, and omnipresent. So how do you guys feel about sharing every aspect of his life, the behind the scenes? Why do you think this worked for him, and why do you think it's important to share more of your everyday life?
Yeah. Well, first, just kind of speaking about him and showing his life, it made sense. It was like when Selling Sunset came about, and I loved Selling Sunset too. But he ended up creating his own TV show, and it was almost pretty natural for that to take place on Netflix, because the comparison between what he was doing on Netflix and YouTube were pretty close. He was taking the time to showcase his life and the behind the scenes of what it took for him to run his business. And I think that it really just came very natural for him to create his TV show. And, in comparison to Selling Sunset, Owning Manhattan is, I feel like, a little bit more centered on the deals and the business. And I really like that about the show in comparison to Selling Sunset. Not to say Selling Sunset, isn't great, because we've worked with other people on that show as well. But the thing is like, if I were to think about building my brand, I would probably follow in the footsteps of what Ryan has done, mostly because people really get to understand the day-to-day life that he has when trying to sell and run his team there in Manhattan, one of the most bustling cities in New York City. So, I think that it's really great what he's doing. And, I think that there's a lot that anybody could learn from building a brand from him, even outside of real estate.
But no, I think that what Ryan's doing is really good, and he's a very unique guy, where he is just like all about his business, and he's just showing a lot of inside looks into the business, inside looks of touring beautiful places, and being creative of like branding different parts of town that don't really aren't considered a part of this town, or that this neighborhood or that neighborhood. So he gets really creative with branding and how he does it, and really tries to put it out to like the masses, right? So he's on every platform. He's definitely an early adopter. And I think when he started this YouTube channel, he was what people were looking for, right? An inside look of luxury real estate. And a lot of people didn't know what that looked like, right? And a lot of people didn't know what a $50 million apartment looked like. And I think this one that he listed last year was like 150 million, right? So I think having the access and giving that to the world, where people could actually see like, wow, like this is crazy. Most people never saw what New York real estate looked like, and yet the multi-millionaire, multi-billionaires, and what they were shopping for. So he definitely casted a net that entertained everybody. And I think nowadays he does it not just into marketing himself, but marketing his listings. So there's two different types of marketing we're talking about here, but they both ultimately build his brand. I would say for people wanting to build their brand, personal brand should be the forefront, and then the listings and how they're marketing their listings in different ways. Because I would say a marketing budget for someone like Ryan Serhant marketing a listing could easily exceed $5,000-$10,000. like no problem. And that's just with the production. That's not even, putting out advertisements and really like building different partnerships with different people to actually get it distributed to the right people. So yeah, it's really interesting how he does it, and I think that there's not really a bad idea. I think he has a very collaborative team. The importance of having a team is really important with collaboration and coming up with different ideas that just shock the world. Like, oh my God, like this is crazy. This is really cool.
I totally agree about the personal brand. And I think what people don't realize is like personal is the first word before brand. And what I
Mm.
think sets him apart is he was sharing his personal life, the wins, the losses. And I think that's what keeps him top of mind. And obviously it's working. You see the man everywhere. And so why do you think that realtors and entrepreneurs like underestimate the power of this content creation, and why don't they embrace it? Because like I said, clearly it's working.
I think that like a lot of people may not even be to like a underestimating type of situation. It could just be like, I know a lot of people are just scared. They just don't know what to do. And that's just, I think, a large part of it. Also, too, when you have somebody like Ryan, uh, who is everywhere, and it kind of makes you have this expectation that you need to be everywhere. And I think that a lot of people get that twisted when creating their personal brands, because a lot of people find success just in their communities. I think that there's something to say about just having 100, 200, 300 people that say something nice about you when your name's brought up. I think that goes a long way. So I think that being able to just get started and really own the opportunity of building your brand in wherever location you're at, I think that that's going to ultimately be beneficial for you. So, I think that's what a lot of people could take away from somebody like him, even if they're not at that level.
Yeah,
Totally.
definitely. I think people can find like inspiration from, all types of different brands and creators and see what they're doing. But I think the ones that are doing the best are the ones that are being really authentic and just doing their own self. I think that if you start faking who you are and you get in and people want you to be that person, it takes so much more effort to keep showing up as that person that is trying so hard, right? So I think just giving people the inside look of your business, what you're doing, and eventually, things grow. And like you said, Nate, I mean, having 100 supporters that are raving about you is really important. And that's one thing we do with our social media clients is we dive in right away and we want to understand if their audience is engaged, because if anything, you could revive a not engaged audience, and start there, right? But most importantly, showing up as who you are, and just starting like to push the boundaries a little bit as you get more creative and as you have the help that you have help from a team, because ultimately showing up every single day, and creating content every day and doing that stuff, it takes a lot of work. So have a simplified approach, and not being intimidated by it, because like you said, most people don't start because they're scared. And you could even break that down further. What are they scared of? Which we could talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, too, really quickly, for anybody who's interested in just seeing what we've been doing in the last couple months, like this is the blueprint here, is that we ended up having some strategy calls, figuring out how we could create a whole bunch of content, how we could show ourselves and our stories. And we decided that building this podcast would allow us to get that story out. Montana did a fabulous job mapping out exactly how we could do this each week. And we've gone now, I think 6 weeks now, discussing these types of stories and pieces of key information. And now we're able to use this platform, Riverside, to take and clip a whole bunch of different nuggets here. And that itself is serving one of these kind of goals that we're having of showing ourselves, telling our story, and generating content. So it really is, a very simple formula, but it does really help having a team that is able to put this all together, because if we weren't collaborating, if we didn't have another strategy meeting last Wednesday when we filmed the podcast, like we probably would not be meeting today because it's Christmas and we're embarking on the
Yeah.
holidays, but we're making it happen. And you have to be planning, you have to be consistent, and that's our blueprint right there for what we've been doing these last couple of months. So there you go.
No, I love that. I love that. And I think you both have kind of said like similar things, and ties into the message of like what Ryan Serhant has preached and what has worked for him, because he is professional, yes, like he does the listing here, but he's personal too. Like I said, he's a character, and it's that transparency, that authenticity, like starting from nothing, like all the bad, the good, the ugly. And that's what we're doing too with this podcast. Like, yes, it's been 6 weeks, and we have not, in the past 6 weeks, not had one week that just went seamless, where we hopped
Yeah.
on and nothing had to be cut. Nobody's camera was not working. So, like, it is a journey, but we're being real about it. And just because and I think that's another thing that kind of stops people too. Like, they see, like, oh, he's on Netflix, he's on Selling Sunset, he's on Instagram, on my For You page, he's all this. They think, well, I could never be that. No, but you can have those few hundred people. And I think that's why authenticity is such a critical part.
And it takes reps, even to like bring that authenticity out. It takes reps to just get that just persona of being like a robot, on camera. You have to really just flush that out. And I think that over time you can really bring valuable things to the table, but in your most authentic way. And I remember I was sitting in on this one call. It was about this realtor in Arizona, and she has built an audience, a local audience there. And she's the godmother, right? She brands herself as that, and people flock to her. And like she had tried doing all these different things, but like just being so personable and like people's kind of feel and relationship with these viewers ended up panning out for her to be closing like tons of deals this last year. And that's from TikTok, just going and talking about herself, showing what she's doing on a day-to-day basis. And that's why TikTok has succeeded. It has been just a game of authenticity. And I think that people think that they need to be Netflix, but they're not Netflix. People on Instagram probably aren't going to be interested in a 3-hour long video, but on YouTube, that person may be. So, being able to know your different channels too is also important, but authenticity is going to be what makes people a fan.
Mm.
Yeah, I think everyone has like their own like character, like their own voice and who they are. And I think if you show up and just be that person and bring that type of attitude or mindset into your situation, you can make something really cool out of it. And nowadays with, the way you can shoot different things on your phone, if it's self-shot, or have a content team edit different things, you can make something that's pretty plain or pretty basic look really cool. So there's a lot of different things you could do there, and I think that it gives everyone an opportunity to make something that you think is normal cool for someone else to watch, cool for someone else to kind of.
I think like when Reels started popping off, Logan and I were living together in San Francisco, and some of our Reels that were just popping off where it was me and Logan walking down the street, random street in San Francisco, and Logan would start it off like, "Hey, Nate," and then hook question, and I would answer it, and it just worked. Like, and it compared to every other sit down type of create content or trying to be flashy type of thing, just like in comparison to those reels and the success that we saw there, it was pretty interesting. And that was like when they just launched reels. So that type of content's still performing in that type of way. So it's pretty cool to see.
That was so good. So what I like, and this is what I feel like Clout Omni is very good about, is a scalable system. And that is what Ryan uses. And Logan, you mentioned you saw his team in action, not just the content team. He has the brokerage. I'm sure he has other forms of teams that run his house. So his whole life is running like a system. He's figured it out. So he uses his brokerage and his team to amplify his brand. So even when he's not there, the brand it's to be directly involved. It's still working. So I think that's like one of the biggest takeaways that realtors could learn is to build a system that works even when you're not. Can you guys
Yeah,
Mm,
agree or disagree?
mhm.
100% agree. I think that a majority of agents know the importance of building their personal brand and using social media to really gain an audience and build more clientele. Everyone knows it's important. It's doing it, and you have sort of this like barrier where if someone's not making like 100,000 plus a year in GCI, they think they can't afford $1,000 or $1,400 a month because they're like, well, this is out of my price range. But they also struggle with creating the content themselves. So if you're someone that's making less than $100,000 a year, you have to think, okay, I'm going to work with a system, that Clout has to have, let's say 12 monthly videos. If you do the math, in an entire year, you should have 144 planned out, well edited, and posted videos. Through 144 videos, can you get, depending on your market, can you close, $1 million in real estate? I would hope so, but a lot of people don't see that. The people that need this are the people that are, have the money and understand, hey, I need someone else to take care of this. So, working with a brokerage that, has a marketing budget of $20,000 a year or 40,000 or whatever number, those are the people that are winning, and they continue to win because they see the benefit in it. So and it's kind of a personal brand, but it almost becomes a bigger entity, like a team brand, right? And Ryan did an incredible thing where he started his brokerage started out as Ryan Serhant, right? And then sell it like Serhant, and just kept going with Serhant. And now his brokerage is called Serhant. So it's like he turned his personal brand into this huge office team that's now, in multiple states. And one thing that he does that's really, really cool, and it's a huge incentive to join Serhant's team, is that he helps each individual agent create their personal brand and elevates them under the Serhant brand. And he knows it's like, hey, I want you to be the local celebrity of Bushwick. I want you to be the local celebrity in Miami, right? So he's doing what he's learned to work and providing that to everybody else under his brand. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, and he's using the fact that people want to be him as part of his service, right? So it's like he was able to build his brand, and people want that. So he's able to be like, you join Serhant, you help sell these homes, and I will help you build your personal brand, or vice versa, however it happens first. But that's kind of like a huge selling point and like incentive, like you're mentioning, to really get somebody to join his team. And I think that being smart and being efficient in that way, it's a win-win, right? I think that he's probably willing to invest in people's brand if they're interested in staying with him long term, because I mean, it would kind of suck to invest in somebody's brand and then have them just leave. But no, like automated systems for anything really is going to be important. And I think that even if you are a real estate agent, there's other systems you can implement. And for example, just something that we recently implemented on our listing delivery is a follow-up system that is able to reach out to our clients who book orders and get their content delivered to them, but then also reach out to them using like automated text messages and stuff like that. So, that's just one piece of the pie. And another example for realtors is building out open house forms or something of the sort, to where is that when somebody comes and visits your listing, you could have them text a number, or you could have them sign in on a form online, and it automatically triggers a drip campaign, over the course of however long, to get this person reinterested time and time again in the listing that they went and visited. So there's a lot of different tools out there that, it doesn't even have to be our tool, but some sort of tool that you could use to really just get back your time, because there's so many things that are manual in the real estate game that could be automated. And I think a lot of realtors do things old school, which works, but there is an opportunity to really get smart and efficient with some of this technology that's advancing out there.
No,
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah.
Efficiency, efficiency.
Yeah, I think the difference of people that win year over year and year again is the people that have teams, the people that have people that can help with specific duties, right? As an entrepreneur myself, and Nate, you could probably attest to this, is the more hats you wear in your business, the least efficient you are, right? So looking at these other brands that are actually working, they've got their marketing teams, right? They've got their sales teams. And I mean, we see this in any business. I mean, you could go all the way back to, Ford and the assembly line, right? People, put tires on the cars, other people worked on engines, other people did windows. But if you had one person try and do it all, Ford wouldn't be what it is today. So if you could look at your business and think scale, like how do I actually grow this business? You have to build a team. That's the key. And nowadays, you don't even have to build a team all in house, right? You could even build, teams with like commission-based sales reps, or people using people abroad to do, different tasks that help you win your time back. So it just shows that the investment in different types of teams incorporated into your team is just important. It's just so important because that's how you win. And I think the best friends at the end of the day show up and shake hands and make the deals, right? But how are you going to make the deal if you're stuck in your office editing a video that you're not even proud of? Then you get mad and you go home, So I think if you could take anything from what I'm saying, is think of building a team and think of the things that you don't want to do. Find someone that will do them at the highest level possible. And there's people out there that like doing the things you don't like to do, and it's important that you do that.
No, I love that. You guys said a lot. You guys said a mouthful about, and which brought up two final questions that I want to ask about this Ryan Serhant case study episode. So he has built a team of people that are doing a lot for him. And you said something funny, Logan. You're like, or Nate, I can't remember who it was, but you were like, he built a brand based off people wanting to be like him, which is kind of crazy. So, do you think this model that he has created is sustainable long term, or is it too reliant on him being the face of the brand?
Yeah, that's a good question. I did mention that. But I think it is kind of a situation we ran into, right? And it was Logan and I built Clout off of this idea and concept that we were going to be the ones filming and shooting the content. And it was like that for a long time. And a lot of people got worried when we even brought Blake into the picture, and they were questioning, who is this guy? This is not you or Logan. And it ended up being that we were able to teach Blake exactly what it is that we know. And he was totally 100% capable of succeeding in all of the situations that we put him in. And then it started to grow even bigger, and there was more photographers that got introduced to our clients, and people were really questioning just who these people were, and were they going to get the same level of service that Clout provides. And that right there is the key, is the consistent value that you provide as a company, and making sure that people can expect the same results and standard that you've created over the long term is going to be what is going to help someone like Ryan Serhant scale and keep it sustainable. I think that one day, God forbid, but we all get old, and if he were to pass away, then he still has his brand. Maybe he has kids that are old enough to be taking over the business, but people will expect a level of service that Ryan has been able to create over this time that he's been in real estate. And if they're able to keep that at that level that he created, then that's going to make it scalable and sustainable.
I think he's a great example of somebody who is the face of the brand, right? And obviously the brand has grown so much, but I think that brands evolve over time, right? And there might be a new person under Ryan, or maybe he'll have a son one day or something, or maybe, he has a daughter, Zaina, maybe she'll get into it as well. But how they take over that brand when that time comes is really important, because I would say most real estate brands, personal brands, once that person is gone, that business is done. That whole book of business is gone, right? So thinking of like a bigger brand that withstands time and generations, I think that it takes a leader like Steve Jobs will never be forgotten, right? But it takes new innovative leaders that still exemplify like the brand's values, the vision of where things are going, that still will bring it forward. And I think that we'll see that within like Serhant's brand and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the foundation is important. Totally, 100%.
And like what you were saying about us, Nate, when we started Clout and we were doing photography, people wanted Nate, people wanted Logan. And when we send someone else, they're like, dude, what is this? But it was so important that we incorporated and trained our team to act the way we act, right? And within like our values and what we're selling the company to be. So, as a personal brand or a team, it's important that your values are incorporated into your brand and everyone believes in that same thing, right? The level of service, the way you treat customers, and how you do things.
It's like a culture thing, like, and I think that Ryan and Clout both, like, they have done a good job of cultivating their own culture and how they want things to be and how things go. So I think it's, yeah, I think it's a culture thing, like creating the culture for your team and everything.
Yeah, I know we're on the verge of wrapping this one up, but something to speak on the culture just real briefly is that in the show, Owning Manhattan, there's a point where one of the newer agents was just acting completely out of character to what the brand Serhant stands for. And Ryan clipped him, and that was it. He couldn't have that part of his company. And I think being able to not be afraid to do certain things like that is important. But it also makes things a lot easier when you're vetting those people out in the beginning, so you don't have to worry about things like that. But things happen, especially at scale, so you have to always have quality control of what's going on, because if not, you could potentially have something happen that you never wished for.
Well, there could be one bad apple, right? And it's important as the business leader to make sure that that brand is consistent and that culture is the same. Because I mean, let's say he didn't clip that guy, and then he amasses this type of culture and this type of following, it could totally derail a brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that because of that action, it could have been, a short-term loss in some sort of business, but ultimately at the end of the day, I think people are like, I like what this guy stands for, right? And I want to do business with them. And that's what's so important, is showing those true colors, showing that to the people and to your following.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that show, like I said, that show was like my first introduction to him. And I'm not a big real estate reality show person. I don't know. I think there's just like, I like a pretty house, but I don't know. That was one I really got invested in because, one, like you said, there was some educational thing. Like I learned, I was like, oh, this girl does what is it, commercial, and this girl does this, and like so I learned a lot. And then the drama thing, and what I liked about him, about going back to the culture, was when you get so high, high up into building something, you kind of are removed from those day to day, but he had watchers in there for him, and I think that was really cool too, because like telling him what was going on, because you got to know what's going on in your team.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I wanted to say a story on Ryan in the early days when my buddy Adrian went to New York City to make it, right? So my buddy Adrian was a content creator himself. He saw the value in long form content through YouTube, and when he moved to New York City, he wanted to work with Gary Vaynerchuk, one of the biggest brands online. And so he went over there, met with them, and just totally went all in. And Gary's like, hey, like, I don't have space for you. Like, I can't hire you, but I'm gonna introduce you to this one guy. I think he's, he needs some help with some video stuff. here comes Ryan. So he started shooting some stuff with Ryan, and they had fun, and it was kind of like more like a freelance thing. So he started shooting, early days Ryan, well known in the city, but nothing like he is today. And my buddy Adrian was like, "Hey, like I think you should go all in on YouTube. I know YouTube very well. I think you should go all in on YouTube." And Ryan's like, "Dude, like what? People don't want to see like long videos of real estate. People don't want to see like an entry, inside look at my life and things like that." And he took a risk with a one-person content creating team, hired him on to do this. And you could see back then, one of the most notable brands not seeing the value in it, right? And being not necessarily pessimistic, but not seeing it fully what it could be. So he went all in and eventually turned his, YouTube following to over 1 million subscribers and a ton of influence, and having an influence all over the world. But it's just interesting that starting small and just doing something cool, maybe something different, something that's not being done, or maybe something that's being done in a different industry and doing it in your own way, can lead to a massive amount of success. But I guarantee you, if my buddy Adrian never went to Ryan and did that, maybe he wouldn't be the star he is on YouTube, right? And got the success he got, throughout, his career. Maybe it would have taken another person to go up to him and say, "Hey, I think you need to do YouTube." Eventually it would have happened, but, investing in that one person to help with his content creation and stuff like that. Because I don't think Ryan would have been able to do it himself, right? He's focused on closing deals and shaking hands. So if you're watching this, you need to build your team. And I encourage you to give us a shot and schedule something with us. Interview multiple people, it doesn't matter. But I'd applaud you if you could create the content yourself, and you don't have to pay us, but good luck. It's hard. We're a content creation agency, and without Montana, we wouldn't be there.
Yeah,
I do this for work, and I still think it's hard sometimes. Like,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
it's my
saying.
job, and it's still hard. And people are like, "You just make videos." I'm like, "Shut up! There's a whole strategy."
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. When you're an expert in your craft, you make it look easy, and that's what a lot of people think it is. And I think if we're a content creative agency and we're investing in it ourselves, and we have editors that we're paying, it's just one of those things. Like, we're eating what it is we're putting on the table, and I think that you really just should get started in some way, shape, or form. And I don't think that it's going to hurt you unless you really do something terrible on camera and post it. But I mean, that's the beauty of it. You don't have to post it, you don't have to do live if you're not comfortable. But yeah, it's like you have a choice to post something. So just try it.
Just try it. That's the thing. I think there's 4 key takeaways that people can take away from Ryan and take away from this episode. And one, it is to create content relentlessly. This guy did not care how much he was on there. He did not care. He just was doing it relentlessly. He was throwing stuff. He was trying different stuff, trying to see what worked. Be authentic, consistency matters, and build a scalable team. So I think we have all 4 of those right here. Like,
We're doing it.
100%.
so I kind of did, well, this was the last question I was going to end on. But I kind of just realized that a lot of Clout has taken lessons from Ryan. So what is one, we'll end with, I'll ask both of you this. And I think we should mention this. Blake is still on the podcast, but he just has had shoots or family things. Like, so Blake, we did not kick him off the podcast. So I'll ask individually, what is one lesson from Ryan Serhant's strategy that applies to Clout today? Take it away, boys.
Logan, do you want to go first?
You can go first. I'm trying to think of the best one.
I think I kind of mentioned it already, but regarding building a scalable system and a team, I think that we're doing exactly that. But also just being able to really be okay with being the face, but not necessarily being the one executing in all aspects, wearing all the hats is something that we've been able to take away. Or at least I would say, I wouldn't say take away necessarily from Ryan, but something that we align on. And then just being able to really replicate the types of things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis, which are our systems. So I think that that's something that, if I were to say is something that we could align on with Clout and the way that Ryan does business is definitely those things.
Love it. Logan?
Yeah, I think the way he tells his stories, he's a great storyteller. And when you're the storyteller, you can control the narrative and how you want to tell that story. So with any brand, you could say it however you want. And I think he's a really, really good storyteller. Storytelling is really good for sales if you're a salesperson, right? How you tell that story and how you paint that picture for somebody to want something, right? He comes in and I mean, how do you sell $100+ million apartment or condo, right? Like, how do you do it? You have to tell a story, and you have to tell it to that person who wants to buy it, because it's not for everybody. And if you're in real estate, you're selling usually to one person. Only one person's buying that home, or a couple, or whatever. So how do you sell to that person? And you have to put the narrative out there that they want to hear, and it's really good.
That's why I'm really glad this podcast, we started this like 6 weeks ago, because one, I didn't know you guys. And also when I'm working on it, like the more I know, the better, the more I can, make content better for those people. And hearing the stories that you guys, building this together as friends, like hearing the stories, I think that is really good. And that's something I want to like incorporate next year, moving it even into the podcast, into the social, just like y'all's story and things that you guys have done. So I agree with that. Storytelling is key in real estate and social media.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Ryan Serhant is proof that relentless content creation and authentic branding can catapult you to the top of your industry. But the best part is that you don't need a reality TV show to start. You just need a plan and the drive to execute. So if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and share this with somebody who is ready to take their branding to the next level.